Well, here we go again.
I give up. We fed him and babied him, talked to him in our very cleverest words, sung him 4 perfectly splendid songs backed up by a dozen of the better musicians, set aside our whole agenda, and given him our whole attention.
Sure, but what's going to become of him when this record is over? He'll be just one more child among 3 billion people.
3 billion? Gosh, it was rough enough when we were his age, and there were only 2 billion people back then.
There's getting to be just too many people in the world.
What do you mean, too many? Too many what kind of people?
There will never be too many of my people.
Nor of mine either.
Well, something's got to be done.
You're right. Do you realize that in just the last 17 and a half minutes, more than 1 million baby lambs have been born? And in that same time, more than 1 billion new birds have pecked their way out of their shells? That's just too many.
Do you realize that just in the time since this record began, 146,952... No, wait a minute. 953 new babies have been born into the world.
That's just too many.
How many lambs are too many lambs? How many birds are too many birds? How many grapes are too many grapes? One more lamb.
Another fleece to warm you.
One more bird.
Another song to warm your heart.
One more grave.
To make your cup run over.
One more blood.
To show you spring will start.
One more leaf.
To give you shade in summer.
One more tree.
To shelter you in winter time.
One more seed.
To grow into the golden harvest of the fall.
One more child.
To give this world another chance, if one more child is given just the chance to give.
One more child.
The most wondrous gift of all. One more leaf to give you shade in summer. One more tree to shelter you in winter time. One more seed to grow into the golden harvest of the fall. One more child
To give this world another chance.
if one more child can get the chance to give the most wondrous
Clerk, he's still crying.
See? I told you lullabies wouldn't work.
Maybe we ought to try a bedtime story.
That's right. A bedtime story.
Maybe. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears who lived
What
in
you
a...
mean, 3 bears? Once upon a time, there was just one great big bear.
Gentlemen. He doesn't need a bedtime story at all. What he needs is a story for waking up. Once upon a time, many, many long years ago, there was a beautiful round green jungle called Earth. Now in this jungle there lived all kinds of creatures, some that crawled and some that climbed, some that swam and some that flew, some that scampered on 8 legs, some scurried on 6, some galloped on 4 legs, and a few that walked, for they had only 2. But lions chased them up trees, and monkeys chased them down. Oh, for a nice, safe cave, these creatures panted. But bears chased them out of every cave they found, for they had no horns or fangs to help them fight. No spots or stripes to help them hide. Only half of them had whiskers, and none of them had tails. What little fur they had, they carried around on the tops of their heads, where it could never keep them warm in winter, and only made them itch in summer. So they scratched those heads for 10,000 years, till it suddenly dawned on them, a head is to think with, I think. And to prove it, the first thing they thought up was a proper name for such remarkable, brainy creatures as themselves, humans. The humans were very proud of their newfound brains. They thought up a thing called fire, which scared the bears right out of their caves. The humans moved in, brains and all. In no time, they thought up slings and arrows and traps and knives. They hunted lions and dragged home wives. And as their wives had children, they counted them up. Before they knew what they were doing, they had learned how to add.
One and 1 make 2. 2 and 3 make 5. 5 and 2 make 7. 7 and 7 make 14, and in 1492, Columbus is going to discover America. Oh boy, are we smart? Just show me a saber-toothed tiger or a woolly mammoth or even one of those high and mighty newfangled elephants who knows how to add.
Oh yes, they were very, very good at adding. But even better at multiplying. They multiplied and multiplied and multiplied until they filled all the caves. And the more of them there were, the more brains they had to think with. Their brains kept turning and turning till they thought up wheels, which they hitched to camels and to horses and to oxen. and even to themselves. And so it was that bright and early one morning, as the sun was slowly rising on the dawn of history, the humans gathered up their possessions, left their caves behind them, and rolled to the seaside. The brisk salt air stimulated them so much they thought up boats and oars and sails. And they sailed and sailed until Columbus discovered America, exactly as they said he would. Thinking, 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 always thinking. Their brains buzzed and ticked and clicked away, thinking up skyscrapers and politics and television and double chocolate malteds and taxes. And they patted one another on the back and said, "Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, are we smart, are we smart? What beaver can saw down a tree? Whoever knew of a kangaroo with sense enough to have green dollar bills in his pocket?
Yeah, and name me one antelope or deer or rabbit that runs on time like our trains.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, are we smart to have brains?" Yes, their brains took them very far indeed. They added stone to brick to steel to build cities. They multiplied themselves into races and nations. And not only did they learn how to add and multiply, but how to divide. And the more they divided, the less humane the humans became. They began to chase each other up trees and shake each other down. They roared at each other and sneered at each other and pushed each other around. They perfected the hiss, the screech, the howl, the scratch, the stomp, and the growl, all the while subtracting more and more of themselves right off the face of the earth. At last, the only place they felt safe was a nice, dark cave. But a cave was no proper place to raise a child. So they called in their best brains from the West. Their finest thinkers from the East. Their top cerebrators from the North, and their foremost cogitators from the South. All of whom put their heads together and scratched and thought, cerebrated and cogitated, and concluded, "We have been acting like animals. Therefore, we should act like animals." And so it was that late in the day, as the sun was slowly sinking on history, these wisest of humans gathered their wits about them and appointed themselves as a safari to go back into what was left of the round green jungle and learn how to act like animals. Our first task is to establish friendly relations with the inhabitants hereof. So they patted a very large kitten on its head. Immediately, a lion chased them up a tree, wherefrom they observed, "This beast is unfriendly and stupid and wild, yet observe, it thinks first of protecting its child. And observe how its mother is licking it clean. Why, it gets better care than most children I've seen." And as they sat there, out on a limb, "See those bird-brained birds building their nests long before they have eggs to lay. These are feeding their babies a meal a minute. Ours are lucky to get 3 a day. And that little bird standing on his own 2 legs, now they are teaching to fly away." Nearby, they discovered some vaguely familiar faces. "Lucky little monkeys, free to play in a tree. Our children should be so lucky. Not only our luckier ones should be free." But those old familiar voices got on the monkeys' nerves, so for old time's sake, the monkeys chased the humans down the tree. On they marched through the round green jungle till they met an old-fangled elephant.
Oh, I remember you, I think. Now don't tell me. Yeah, you're the critters who sorta went wild and ran away from home. Say, what you been up to all these years?
They told him.
Oh boy, have you got problems? An elephant never forgets the right way to treat the elephant race. Why, live and let livin' and giving our kids the best we can, those rights are as plain as the nose on my face.
The humans cerebrated and cogitated and concluded, if mere animals have these rights, a child has a right to them too. And right then and there, they wrote these rights down, so they'd never forget the human thing to do. Once upon a time, many, many long years from now, every child will have a home, and not just a right to a home. Every child will eat right, not just have a right to eat. And every child will have a name and a flag and a school, and will live his life in health and freedom and dignity. That is how he will change this earth into a round green garden. And if this story doesn't come true, well, there just won't be enough caves to go around.